You are now rocking with that dude Pascal. We be going wild, Haitian in the building, so original. Got the haters catching feelings. Get your hands up to the ceiling and keep them held high, cause St. Louis isn't ready. Forget about it, goodbye. Hold up, we just saying hi. Five somebody, rise up weekdays. Catch us live, somebody, let's go.
Good afternoon. Good evening and good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Pascal Show. Hope you guys all doing well out there. Hope this show finds you in good spirits, because another day above the dirt is always a blessing. Let's not forget that, all right? We got some things to get into. There's some interesting things that have just dropped just a little bit ago, and I wanted to make sure that we were here to talk about it. And don't worry, we are still looking at the whole Madeline Soto situation, the case with Stephen Stern's jail calls and all that. We are still going to go and finish that out, okay? Don't worry. But this popped off, and as I was getting ready for that, for the Stephen Stern's thing, this dropped. And I'm telling you right now, Bryan Kohberger is done. It's a wrap. It's a wrap for this guy. I think we can all agree. Well, not all of us, but for those who believe that he had something to do with this whole situation, I'm telling you right now, he's done. I said he's cooked a little bit ago. Now he is, stick a fork in him. He is done. Okay, so we got to talk about a few things. Like I said, I know that there's going to be some pro-Kohberger individuals out there that believe otherwise, that feel a different type of way. And hey, you're welcome in the chat. All right, let's just make sure everybody, let's be respectful, because we can all play in the sandbox together. Okay, we can all agree to disagree as well. But also, it's nice to have opposing views, because let's be real, it opens up for a very interesting and insightful conversation, right? But nonetheless, this is some crazy stuff. So do me a favor, hit that like button down below, crush it, do what it do. That'd be greatly appreciated. If you're watching on other platforms like Facebook, X/Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Rumble, make sure you are following me on all those platforms. Crush that subscribe button here on my YouTube channel. Go over to my secondary channel. Make sure you're subscribed over there as well. That'd be greatly appreciated. All right. Hit that join button down below. Check out my Patreon. Check out my locals. And let's not forget, check out pascalmerch.com. We got some really great stuff over there. Go check it out. We got a really nice store over there, okay? Anyway, guys, we got to get into this conversation. We got things to talk about, baby. Let me just say this, okay? Now, again, like I said in the very beginning of this intro and all that, I truly believe that Bryan Kohberger, the man who is accused of taking out 4 University of Idaho students on that unbelievable night in November, in a cold, late, or depending on how you see it, late night or early morning hours of November 13th, 2024, or 2022, I'm so sorry. This makes the situation a little bit worse for him. For anybody who's out here who believes he did not do what he's alleged of doing, which I understand there's going to be some people on the side of, hey, he's innocent. They framed him. The touch DNA is enough room to create some sort of reasonable doubt and all that. Let me just say this, okay? I understand the argument out here. But the more and more information that keeps dropping as they continue getting ready, we get closer and closer to this trial, the more and more we realize there's a lot of red flags. There's a lot of evidence out here that shows us otherwise, that maybe Bryan Kohberger did what they're alleging him of doing. Let's keep that completely 100 right here, guys. So again, sure, there's a possibility that somebody just dropped a knife sheath that was close to what he used to own, by the way, all right, that closely matched what he had before, had his DNA somehow properly, gingerly put on the snap button of this knife sheath and just placed it in the crime scene. Yes, there's possibilities of that too. But then at the same time, for what prosecution keeps on funneling out, the more and more information they keep dropping, like like bombs on Hiroshima. It's hard to look at the possibility. It's hard to think that there's a possibility of this man being innocent. The innocence starts to fade away even more, like a thief in the night, just like what Brian Kohberger did that night, just vanished out of nowhere. So again, like I said, there's a lot of information here that we have already seen that does make it seem so far that prosecution has one hell of an argument piled up against this man. I'm sorry, I'm just pulling this up against this man, Brian Kohberger, as I like to call Coco. Now, here's the thing. This footage, this photo, the reason why I'm bringing this up is we're going to be circling back because there is something else after we talk about the main topic here, okay, that you see above or down below, wherever you're watching this show, all right? There is a lot that we can look at with this photo. This could be very telling, or this could be absolutely nothing. Now, hear me out, because I know some of you guys are feeling some type of way about, like, you know, there's been a lot of debate, a lot of argument. Some people think that he did it. Some people think that he didn't. Some people look at this photo and think it's 50-50. Give or take. It's really like 80-20, but we're going to say 50-50 for what it's worth, okay? There's one side that looks at this and says, this clearly shows to me, or shows to us, the ones that believe that he is guilty, that he has some sort of involvement in this unaliving, okay, in this tragedy, that this photo is a trophy. It is a reminder of him successfully doing something that he's always wanted to do. If this tragedy is the only thing he's ever been, that he's ever done, that is a hard if. Now, the other side, like I said, is 50-50. So there's the other side of the fence. The other side believes that that's just him, just taking photos, just being a regular guy. Maybe he's about to use this for his own Tinder account. God only knows. Plenty of fish, Christian mingles, Christian singles, or whatever the hell's called. I don't know, farmersmeat.com, whatever the hell it is that he's maybe making this photo for. There's a possibility that he made this photo just because he felt like it, because he felt good. Maybe he liked how clean this seems, like a satin white button-up business shirt he's wearing made him feel. Maybe he made him feel good that morning. He wanted to take a photo, you know, a little selfie, looking good. Feeling good, feeling great. Feeling great, feeling good. How are you? Now, here's the thing. I lean on the side of this man took this photo to remind himself of the thing that he successfully did. Because let's be real, in his mind, it was a success. He wasn't caught for the most part. No cops were running up to his door at that time. He, I'm sure, walked out pretty much unscathed. I'm sure he had a few bruises, cuts, marks, whatever, scratches, whatever. We don't really see it in this photo. And maybe that's why the shirt's so buttoned all the way up. Maybe there is a little scratch under the collar. Like a guy trying to hide a hickey on his neck. You see what I'm saying? So maybe that's what it was. But like I said, it's been a toss-up. A lot of people have speculation, like I do too. All of us do. On his involvement, whether or not he did have some sort of involvement in this. I believe he had something to do with this situation. There's still a good possibility he did not operate alone, but there's still a very good possibility that he did operate alone. Let's be real. All right? Now, here's the thing. There's been new information that has dropped that I'm absolutely just shook about. Because to me, aside from this smoking gun evidence, like not this smoking gun evidence, I'm sorry. Aside from this photo, there's been other things that unearthed. Just a quick recap. They found out that his Amazon account shows him buying a K-bar knife with a sheath and a knife sharpener several months before the unalivings. Now, the thing is that we got to play devil's advocate. We got to sit on the fence, and I know that's uncomfortable as all hell, but let's talk about this for a second. There's a possibility that he bought it as a gift for somebody. But then at the same time, if he did buy it for a gift for somebody, where's the friend? And where's that said gift? The fact that he has not turned up with that actual K-bar and the sheath, and even, let's just say, the knife sharpener, says a lot to me as well. Then to add insult to injury, aside from him going to his family's Amazon account and ordering it online, he went back to that account looking for another K-bar knife sheath and knife, right? Again, as if either he was wanting to have one so that he can remind himself of the day he did this thing he never thought he'd be able to do, to remind himself of the triumph of succeeding in something so deplorable, or maybe he was buying it because he wanted to do it all over again. There's still a good possibility that he had other people on his list, other college students. Maybe instead of it being on the University of Idaho campus, maybe it was over in his neck of the woods. Maybe not. Now, I know some people roll their eyes on that situation like, oh, miss me with the nonsense on that idea. But there still is that possibility. You got to remember, this is somebody, if this is his first and only tragedy that he made, that he orchestrated himself, this is somebody who has been daydreaming, dreaming, fantasizing, obsessing over this type of act. So when you go, and especially let's not forget, this is someone who also is an addict as well. Let's not forget, he grew up with substance problems, etc. So you got somebody who's been obsessing over this situation, right? Then he goes and does that thing. He gets high off of it. Some sense of disturbing euphoria. You really think he's going to stop there? Do you really think he's going to stop there? Oh, no, I tell you not. I tell you no. Oh, pray tell. I tell you no. He's going to sit there and go, ooh, maybe there's a possibility I can do this again. Hence the reason why he went back onto the Amazon and started looking for the K-bar knife and sheath and all that stuff all over again. Because let's be real, he probably was like, whoa, that worked beautifully. K-bar for me, that's going to be my weapon or instrument of choice. You also got to remember, this is somebody who also was obsessing over cereal monsters. Think about that for a second. I know this is just me doing, like I said, there's no proof behind any of what I'm saying right now. This is just me speculating, okay? This is speculation, ladies and germs, okay? But here it is. He's getting high off his own situation. Maybe in his mind, especially when he's obsessing over cereal monsters. A lot of these cereal monsters have their own MO. They have a weapon or a religious, almost religious pattern that they do, that they consistently do over and over and over again. Some use rope in a certain way. Some use a weapon in a certain way. Some use chemicals, substances in a certain way to get their, let's just say, prey vulnerable. So what are the chances of him going, this is whoa, this is dope, and it worked. I need to buy this thing again because now I found my weapon of choice. It worked. I like it. We're going to keep with it, keep up with it. And now if I go off and do it again, I will always be known as this person. Think about it for a second. You think that only BTK or, sorry, not the BTK, I'm sorry, the Long Island monster, the Gilgo Beach monster was the only one to take notes? You really think he's the only serial monster on this planet that wasn't taking either literal physical notes or taking mental notes on what worked and what didn't work so that they can have a more successful hunt the next time? Think about it. Now, here's the other thing, too. That's the other thing, too. Hold on. Let me grab that. Ra just said this, too. And you right, Ra. Okay? He was trying to replace it. If the cops come knocking, that could be it, too. But at the same time, if he was out there looking, trying to find it and all that stuff, right? And he actually had it in his possession, the new one, then they would have said, okay, we see that this is a new one. Why don't you have the old one? So no matter what, he was screwed. No matter which way you look at it, no matter how many ways you try to fry this egg, he was screwed. Okay, doesn't matter if they were able to do their reverse math and figure out that he was the one who did this, right? Which is clearly what they did, right? At the end of the day, people are sitting here saying the cops, law enforcement, prosecution right now are basically saying, okay, man, we know that you bought a K-bar. Where is it? Produce the K-bar. Por favor. We are now understanding that, yeah, he did turn off his phone for sure. That he cut and turned off his phone literally at the same time this whole thing was going down. But then, of course, turns it back on at a specific time to get into his phone and do God knows what. Again, there is so much, okay? There is so much information out here now against Bryan Kohberger that he's going to have to do some serious work. His team is floundering right now. Why? Because they've thrown everything and the kitchen sink. They've even thrown Hail Marys into the mix, like things that we talked about before, because they know for a fact they are screwed. Bryan Kohberger does not have a case right now, at least from what prosecution has thrown out here. They've done bombshell after bombshell after bombshell after bombshell after bombshell. Defense just comes back and says, well, he's on the spectrum. He's autistic and he has OCD and he has DCD. Yeah, that's all they've given. They do not have a leg to stand on right now. And I've said this before, the defense needs more than anything in the world, something smoking gun, a bombshell that is going to shake the very foundation of the true crime world right now. Because the true crime world right now is literally looking at this and going, Coco cooked. Oh my damn. You really think, oh damn. He really went, oh damn. Okay, defense, what you got? Oh, he autistic. Oh damn. Literally, they don't have a leg to stand on, guys. And now there's something even more interesting that's going on. Let's take a look at this. Yeah. So Bryan Kohberger's family could be asked to testify against him. Do you realize how bad that is? The fact that you got family members that are going to go and sit down and testify against their own blood says a lot, y'all. Now, if you don't get what I'm trying to, he's screwed. It is a wrap for this man. It is over. Do you understand that? The fact that you got family members willing to stand and testify against you instead of family going out of their way to fight tooth and nail, saying my son or my relative or whoever, my family member, he's innocent. And I'll go on there and talk about this whole thing, saying, hey, you know, he's a good man. He's never done anything wrong. He's done no wrong, so on and so forth. No. This could very well happen. Oh, I'm going to say this. It's going to happen. Unlike what we've been seeing with the Stephen Stearns situation, right? With pig vomit, as I call him. All right. Let's talk about that for a second. You got the parents, so far from what we've been hearing in those phone calls, right? They have basically said that he's done no wrong. That he's done no wrong. He's an angel. Even when they know for a fact, we're talking about Stephen Stearns, pig vomit, Madeline Soto's monster that took her out. Pig vomit. I call him pig vomit, just so you guys who aren't savvy. You got family members, parents, still standing 10 toes down on a hill that they shouldn't even be fighting on behalf of their son, pig vomit, aka Stephen Stearns. If they're asked to testify, what do you think is going to happen? They're going to go on there and they're going to talk about him as a person. And he's a good man and he was such a good little boy. You know, stupid stuff like that. That's what's going to happen. We're not going to hear, it's very unprecedented that we hear about family members testifying against their own. Very rare. Just like the Stephen Stearns situation, we're not going to hear the parents testify against their own kid. They're not. Family members testifying against pig vomit, it's very rare. At least in those phone calls, those jail phone calls, I don't think they are going to do that, right? Yeah, Lil Patty, they definitely need a reality check, but also, you know, in their minds, they're in the land of denial so far. But it's very unprecedented that you hear about family members testifying against their own kid or their own kin, okay, their own blood. And now we are hearing that now. Can you believe that? And again, the fact that they are going to be testifying against Coco is massive. That is massive. And let me tell you this. This has nothing, I'm telling you right now, this has nothing to do with him being on the spectrum or being OCD or being DCD or anything of that sort. This has everything to do with him and what he did. At least that's what I believe. I believe he did this or was a part of it. Was it a getaway driver? Hell no. He was a part of it, guys. That's what I truly believe. And here's the thing. Prosecution has nothing but facts and information. And let's not forget, didn't they receive a tip to go and get Coco as well? And it does make you wonder, who? Okay? Who? Okay? But let's take a look at this, okay? So Idaho student on the livings, Bryan Kohberger's family could be asked to testify against him. Now, again, I believe this is going to happen. And if it does actually happen, when it does actually happen, it is a wrap. Okay? Big trouble for Bryan Kohberger. Okay? So let's take a look at this. So Idaho prosecutors ask a judge to reject at least partially Student unaliving suspect Brian Kohberger's request to give his family priority seating at his upcoming trial, arguing in part that relatives may be asked as witnesses. Now, yes, they could be brought in as character witnesses, talking about him, how it was, growing, bringing him up and all that stuff, raising him and all that stuff as well. That could be very bad. But at the same time, they could be asking questions that unearth or open a whole can of worms that I don't think that the defense wants out here. You got to remember, they're sitting here saying, please don't talk about him like don't say, don't say that he's don't say sociopath. Don't say psychopath. Don't say serial killer. Don't say they have all these words that you can't say because they're worried about him being what's the word? They're worried about him being shown in a bad light, right? Before the jury, before anything, just because of the words that are being said, right? Just for saying psychopath, sociopath, etc. Right? Thank you, Lil Patty. Yes, labeled. Okay. Now, again, profiled. Yes, misbehaving. Okay. Now, again, like I said, if they bring the family up to testify against him, this could be very bad, y'all. This could be extremely messy. So Deputy Latah County Prosecutor Jennings wrote in the court filing asking Judge Stephen Hippler to exclude any potential witnesses in Kohberger's family from attending the trial prior to giving their own testimony. The state may call members of the Kohberger family to testify at trial, she wrote. Prior to the start of the trial, the state anticipates it will motion the court, or the court will, on its own accord, generally exclude testifying witnesses from the courtroom so that they cannot hear other witnesses' testimony. So again, they're like, hey, we don't want any of the family members in there. The reason why is because we might be calling them in. We are planning to call some of them in to speak, to testify in court. Okay? So, this is bad. Like I said, this is a recipe for disaster. Because you know for a fact, if they're sitting there going, hey, we don't want them in the room, please do not let them in the room, right? And get permanent teeth in 24 hours. Don't do it, guys. But if they're sitting there going, no, we don't want them. We don't want them in there. We don't want them in there. Why? Because they're planning on using them. They're planning on bringing them in. Now, I understand. Some may look at this and go, well, it's just a character testimony. But you got to understand. You don't think that some of them are going to go in there and say something that's going to cause prosecution to ask another set of questions that can show even more about what kind of person Brian Kohberger really is? Think about it for a second, guys. Think about it for 2 seconds. Think about it for a second. Okay? They go up there, they're talking about all this stuff about the upbringing of their son, so on and so forth. You don't think that there could be questions that are asked that show what kind of character he was before these monstrous acts were done? Also, let's not forget, you're talking about before, during, and after the unalivings as well. Let's not forget all that too. You don't think that prosecution will be asking all of those kinds of questions? What was he like before? Okay, leading up to this the morning of November 13 or the night of November 13th, 2022. What was he like? Did you do anything of anything strange? Did you do blah, blah, blah? You don't think that they could sit there and ask those people questions like that? Come on now. Afterwards, you're telling me that he was walking around wearing gloves while he was going grocery shopping. You saw him. Did you see him cleaning his car? And he's wearing gloves all the time. Is that normal? Was that something that he usually did? Even before these unalivings happened. Is this possible? Did you see that he did this in the past? Does he have a pattern of doing this? Family members could sit there and go, no, I ain't never seen him do that in my life. Or, yeah, I saw it all. He always wore it all the time. You see, so no matter what, it could also swing for the defense, right? Is it normal that he would put his own trash in individual baggies before he threw them in the trash can? Is that normal for Bryan Kohberger? Family member could sit there and go, yeah, that's totally normal. Or no, it's not. That was a new thing he started doing as soon as he came back home. Like I said, there's so much information that they can get that can backfire on the defense, on Bryan Kohberger, just by having family testifying against him. And sure, they can ask the same doggone questions during cross and all that stuff as well. But given the fact that they're saying we are bringing in the family to testify, says a mountain of things. And Bryan Kohberger should definitely be shaking in his booties. Real talk. Okay. So while victims' relatives have guaranteed legal rights, there is nothing that gives the same to an accused monster's family. Okay, and this is what Jennings argued. Get permanent teeth in 24 hours. Floss, guys. Just floss those teeth. All right? Brush your teeth and floss those teeth. You're welcome. Moving on. Defendant requests that members of his family be granted the same rights as the victims' families. However, the immediate families of homicide victims have constitutional and statutory rights to attend pursuant to the, Idaho Constitution. There is no comparable constitutional or statutory provisions affording a defendant's family these same rights. This is the family, of course, here as well. All right. The mom, sister, daddy over here in the corner. Okay. Kohberger's defense lawyers asked for his family to be included in a list of people to receive priority seating earlier this month after prosecutors submitted a list of victims' relatives to the court. So they're like, oh, well, if they can do that, then we can do that too. Okay, that's fine. Do you? So defense attorney Mazoff claimed that excluding them would violate his Sixth Amendment rights, but Jennings shot down that logic. The defendant has a constitutional and statutory right to a public trial, but that does not extend to defendants choosing whom sits in the courtroom, she wrote. So we already know about what he's accused of doing and all that. The victims were, we already know about that as well. Okay. The defense did not object to the presence of the victims' families in court, but Kohberger's lawyers took a swipe at the Gonzalez family by asking the judge to ban people from wearing clothing with the victims' faces on it in court. Another judge entered not guilty pleas on Kohberger's behalf at his arraignment on May 23rd to 4 counts of first degree M. And of course, we already know that this is about to go down in Boise, Idaho. Okay. And on August 11th. And of course, he could be facing the DP if convicted. Now, again, like I said, the fact that the family, there's room for the family to testify, in my personal opinion, this is a massive big deal. Okay. To testify against him. And also, you got to remember, it doesn't even matter. Let's just be real. If the family goes and testifies, period, if they testify on his behalf or not, let's be real, still can be bad. Okay? Still can be very, very bad. Because the defense can ask all kinds of questions that have been rehearsed, properly put together. They already know what kind of questions they're going to be asked. But then prosecution could go in there and ask them all kinds of questions. And they have to remember at all times that they are under oath when being asked these questions. They have got to remember that without a shadow of a doubt. They are under oath, and they have to tell the truth. And if they ask, hey, what kind of person was Bryan Kohberger? And they're asking specific questions, they can't commit perjury just so that they can save their own son or cousin or brother's ass. They can't. They can sure as hell do it if they want to, but at the same time, if it comes back that it's all a lie, they can find themselves in some serious trouble. So again, the fact that these individuals, there's a plan to bring them in to testify, okay, is a massive problem. Now, I want to play this. There might be an ad. I don't know. Let me just check really quick. Because knowing my luck, there's a commercial. Hold on one second, guys. But while you guys are here, I appreciate you guys being here. I do. Really, really do. Hit that like button down below. Crush it. Do what it do, please. And thank you. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you can. That'd be awesome as well. And you know what's interesting? You know, like for something like this one one of these, this case specifically, I think is very interesting because I think as soon as it goes into like August time, when we start getting closer to this trial, I think this is going to be just as polarizing and just as insane as Karen Reed's case. Uh-oh. I know I said it. I said it. Okay. I feel like there's going to be a lot of people that are thinking that, hey, you know, he was framed. And then there's going to be a lot of people that think that he did this. Okay. It's going to be crazy. You know, even the Karen Reed situation is even crazy too, right? And it has caused quite a civil war online. Yeah, S Dubs, I think it might be more. It just might be more. It might be more. I don't know. Like I said, I get it. There's people out here that believe that he's been framed. I just don't see it. I just don't see it. There's too much pitted against him right now. But at the same time, I'm still waiting to see what defense is going to drop. And if defense drops some huge bombshell where it's like, it literally shows him in the park looking at the moon and the stars around the exact same time that these individuals were unalived, then yeah, I'm going to be like, in second thought, maybe I was wrong. Maybe my theories are wrong. Maybe he has nothing to do with this. But then I keep wondering, why, who would go out of their way to pick, who would pick someone like Bryan Kohberger, of all people? Millions and millions of students, millions and millions of people in that area, okay, that they could have picked. Why Bryan Kohberger? If he's the innocent one, why is he the one that got picked? Is there some beef that we don't know about? You know what I mean? Did he owe somebody some money? Like I said, there's just certain things that I'm like, someone give me something logical. Give me a logical explanation. And not just because, oh, it's touch DNA. Yes, exactly. That's what I mean. Why was he targeted? Why was he picked out? You know what I'm saying? Respectfully. Doesn't have to be some condescending, being a jerk on the internet. I know how people like to go after each other for no reason at all. Like, this ain't my life. This ain't your life. Everyone chill. You know what I mean? Like, it's a case. This is what's being presented, right? Chill. But I'm wondering, what is it, right? What is the information that makes you think he was targeted? And then why him, of all people? Because there's got to be something, not just touch DNA, Now we're seeing search history or Amazon purchases and him searching things, right? The other red flags that have been found, right? It has not been good, right? So again, something I'm curious about. Hold on. We're going to this video, I promise. I'm just moving something around real quick before I pull this up, because we're going to take a look at that. But again, like I said, I understand people and their feelings about this, but it's the same thing like the Karen Reed case. It's like, but the Karen Reed case, there's some, on both sides, a lot of evidence. But with this, I've yet to see anything that's like hard evidence so far. Let's just be real. On the defense, prosecution has been able to stack up a lot of evidence, guys. So far, it's been no bueno. I'm still waiting for the defense to drop their bombshells, and we have not heard anything of that sort yet. The only thing I've seen so far is them saying he has autism, and he's OCD, and he has DCD. That's it so far. So, again, interesting stuff. Interesting. But let's take a look at this clip.
Court documents giving new details on the night 4 University of Idaho students were murdered. Prosecutors plan to present a cell phone picture of the suspected killer, Brian Kohberger, taken just hours after the incident, as well as evidence that he bought the same type of knife found at the scene months earlier. Now let's go to former D.C. homicide detective Ted Williams. Ted, what do you make of this latest, seemingly on its surface, damning evidence in that Idaho case?
Brian, I got to tell you, I was out in Idaho covering this for Fox News, and I can tell you the prosecutors there have built a pretty solid case against Brian Kohberger. They know that he had purchased a knife and knife sheet from Amazon. They found, as you know, DNA on the knife sheet that was left by one of the victims. There was a white car in the neighborhood. They've been able to show that Brian Kohberger has a white car. The next morning, a cell phone pinged in that area showing that Kohberger came back to the scene of where these 4 individuals were killed. They built a rock-solid case against him, I got to say.
Yeah, Ted. And, on to another case that, I know you were down in the Dominican Republic. I just came back from the DR as well, covering the story of Sadisha Konanki, who is still missing at this hour. They have not found a body or any trace of her yet in the DR. Joshua Reeby, who was the last to have contact.
Okay. So, again, there's a lot of smoking gun evidence so far. There's a lot of evidence that's giving Brian Kohberger a very extremely bad look. Let's just say that. And for ones to believe that he has done no wrong, like I said, I just want to see more proof in the pudding. And I have yet to see anything new that says, hey, there is proof without a shadow of a doubt that he is innocent. Right. So that is something that I am still very, very curious about. But let's take a look at this. Of course, we are talking about everything that's been going on with the Brian Kohberger case. There's been more and more information coming out. And again, like I said, him going and his family members going and testifying against him is going to be massive. And again, I'm hoping that this all stays on camera. I'm hoping this is all cameras in court and all that, so that we can watch this whole thing transpire, because this is going to be a edge of your seat, white knuckled type of situation. Let's keep it real. It's going to be pretty crazy. Okay. But and of course, near the end, they were talking about Sadisha Konanki, because she's still not to be found, right? She is still missing as we speak. And of course, everybody's still side-eyeing the last person to see her alive, which of course is understandable, right? But let's take a look at this, all right? This is what, we're now hearing from Steve Gonsalves. I know, everybody has, I like him. I know some people feel some type of way about him, but in my personal opinion, I think, he's like what most fathers I feel would be like when it comes to something like this, just wanting justice, wanting this person to, get what they rightfully deserve. Right. I also will say this too. The fact that they want to wear t-shirts, to me, I don't see a big deal. I don't see the big deal. In my personal opinion, if they want to wear a t-shirt, it's their First Amendment right. If they want to wear a t-shirt that says, burn in hell, shoot. They have every right to do it if they want to, right? But that's just me. That's just me. And if that's the only thing they can do, think about it. For a fact, Steve Gonzalez, and I'm sure other other parents that have lost their kids in this tragedy, I'm sure they would love to do more than just wear a t-shirt during this trial. If you get what I'm saying. It's like, you know what? Put me in a room with him and just lock the door. Turn off the cameras, turn off anything, recording devices. Just put me in a room with this guy for 5 minutes. Just 5. So, yeah. I think it's okay that they wear a t-shirt. That's just me, though. That's just me. The worst thing they can do is wear a t-shirt in comparison to what they really are playing off in their minds. Okay. Now, again, let's take a look at this. Okay. They're talking about the selfie. Again, hold on. Actually, before we go into this, let me do a poll. Yes, we doing a poll. Okay. Let's see. Sorry, guys. 1 second. And while I'm doing this, please hit that like button down below. Crush it. Do what it do. Okay. Hit that like button down below. Crush it. Do what it do. Hit that reaction button. Hit that follow button. Hit that subscribe button. But here, I put it up. Hopefully I got it right. I said, do you think BK's family testifying will hurt or help him in his case? And I said, you got 2 choices. Yes, I think it will help. No, it could crush him. There it is. Get your ass to the poll. Okay? Get your ass to the poll. All right? Let's get into this. So, of course, he puts in his thoughts, okay, that it was a trophy. Like I said before. Okay? This is a trophy. It's a reminder of the thing he thought would be impossible to do. Can I get away with this? Can I do this? Can I slip through the cracks? Can I go in and out of this house undetected? So on and so forth. And he did, for the most part, except for frozen shock phase. But other than that, he was successful. He went back home. He took his shower. Got rid of the clothes. God knows what else he did. Went back home, took the shower, put on this really nice, very, very pressed shirt, and gave a photo a thumbs up. Seems a little bit odd. It does. Now, let's take a look at this. The father of one of the University of Idaho students who was attacked, of course, at the off-campus residence in 2022 is speaking out after prosecutors released a selfie taken by the accused monster, Coco. So Steve Gonzalez, of course, the father of Kaylee Gonzalez, which we already know all this, okay? But he said in an interview that he believes Kohberger took the photo as a way to celebrate his alleged crime. Like I said, I see somebody that was there making himself a trophy. This is what he said, okay, appearing on Fox and Friends. So Gonzalez went on to say that in his mind, Kohberger wanted that quote unquote little trophy to let himself know, hey, I got away with it. What I've been saying, y'all, what I've been saying, okay? So Latah County Prosecutor Thompson stated in a court filing obtained by people that are we're reading right now that Kohberger took the selfie just a few hours after the brutal attack in the town of Moscow. Thompson, however, did not discuss the possibility that the photo was a quote-unquote trophy or related to these unalivings. Authorities are requesting the photo be allowed into evidence because one of the surviving roommates, who is, of course, the lone eyewitness in this case, said in multiple interviews with police that the man she saw leaving the home after the unalivings had bushy eyebrows. And again, he said, some people are like, this ain't bushy eyebrows. That ain't bushy eyebrows. Like, I mean, real talk. Some people, man, some people, like, we zoom in. That ain't bushy eyebrows. Like we saw Luigi Maggioni's bushy eyebrows. Now that's some bushy eyebrows, but this is bushy eyebrows too. He's not manscaping them. They're not perfectly, whatever, plucked, lined up perfectly. That is some bushy ash eyebrows. And people out here, no, it's not a bush. They ain't bushy eyebrows. Huh? Okay. I'd love to know what bushy eyebrows look like to you. They must be like the whole face. Okay? Those eyebrows must take up the whole damn face. Did he blink? I can't see because of his big ass bushy eyebrows. All right? But moving on. Thompson and Kohberger's attorney, and Taylor, who are prohibited from making extrajudicial statements about the case under a non-dissemination order filed just days after Kohberger's arrest, did not respond to people for comment. There, of course, we already know about all this. His father said in multiple interviews that she returned to Moscow that weekend, despite having graduated early. Kaylee wanted to spend one last weekend with her best friend, Madison, which is tragic. She was still moving out of the place, going to Austin, Texas. Okay. And she already had a job lined up at an IT firm. So, again, this is a trophy. Like I've said a multitude of times already. When we first saw the photo. And I think that every single person that is in any logical thinking person would sit there and say the same thing. This has got to be some sort of trophy. Why would he create something like this? Take a photo of this, okay? But then, like I said, this is very, very interesting. So this is interesting. Again, so, the thing is okay, there's always some pushback. I understand that. Carol, thank you so much for the comment. So I guess you're saying I'm so disappointed you're condemning a man without due process. That's true. I mean, I wouldn't. Well, yeah, I guess so. I mean, let's be real. I see the evidence. I see the stuff that's been thrown out here. I'm still waiting for defense to come up with their information. So far, we have heard nothing, yet there's still plenty of time. Okay, August is not super long away, but August is a little whiles away, right? Anything's possible, but we have yet to hear anything from them. All we're getting is laundry lists of things of them trying to dismiss. They're trying to throw a lot of things out of the trial, which I think is kind of ridiculous. Instead of using this time to say, okay, here's the evidence of his innocence. Here is his last, digital footprint. Here's security camera footage of him walking in and out of this place, doing this, that, and the third. Where is the evidence, guys? Respectfully, where's the evidence? Where is it? Moving on. Let's see. Did you see that the selfie was doctored? Where? How is this photo where? Where? Like I said, where is it doctored? I don't see anything in here that gives off a vibe like it's AI or something of that sort, where there's any manipulation going on. I don't see it. But maybe I'm not seeing something that maybe some people are seeing, which is very interesting if that's the case. It looks like a very low lighting type of bathroom where he took a selfie, and that's it. But moving on. Do you know the survivors' stories are questionable? Yes, they are questionable. But at the same time, I can see, even though the 8 hours doesn't make sense to me, it doesn't. Or I don't even know how many hours, but it, before somebody jumps on me and goes, oh my God, mad. This amount of hours. Hold on. Okay. But, or maybe 8, 9 hours, whatever it may be, 7, 8, 9 hours. Okay. That is very questionable. It's very weird. It's very odd. And I have a lot of questions about that too. Right. But do I think that they're the ones who did it and then just Bryan Kohberger happens to be thrown under the bus? No, I don't see it. I don't. Now, that I feel is something that should be asked and should be discussed, or should have already been discussed by law enforcement, by prosecution, with these witnesses. Why did it take so long? Those things are weird. I agree with that. It's very weird. And then, of course, I know that there's a lot of people that look at this and go, frozen shock face? What? Psst, miss me with that nonsense. I get that piece too. I do. But do I think that they have their guy, or at least one of their guys? I do think so. Okay. And where was Maddie's jacket found? That is a Where is Maddie's jacket found? Maybe that's some information I don't know. Was her jacket found somewhere else? Friends, family? Put it in the chat. I'd like to hear what your thoughts on that are. But at the same time, like I said, the frozen shock phase is weird. The fact that there was, that they were in, both of them, both Dylan and Bethany were in a room together, scrolling through, Instagrams and social media, and they're talking to their parents, but not once called 911. It is very weird. Okay. It is very, very weird. And yeah, and some people are saying that there's no shower curtain. This is a shower curtain, y'all. I see that as a shower curtain right here on this side. So again, I'm going, is it not a shower curtain or just a bowed out wall right by the shower? It, to me, looks like a shower curtain to me too. And I've said that since the day when we first saw this photo, right? So again, like I said, there's something very interesting that's going on. I think that there is a shower curtain in here, but then later when they went in to find evidence, his shower curtain was gone. There was no shower curtain in the shower. That's weird. That's very weird. Okay. And yes, okay, here's the other thing. Here's the only other thing I could say on his behalf. For 2 seconds, he was leaving for Christmas break, right? He left, or he did a road trip back home. He was going over there for a little while. That's when he got caught. There is a possibility that maybe he took down the shower curtain specifically because he knew that if it just sat there, it was going to collect and get moldy and get nasty, and he wasn't cool with that. So maybe he took down the shower curtain during that time because he knew he was going to be gone for winter break. Maybe that's what it was. But still, like I said, it doesn't make sense. Okay? It really, really doesn't. Okay? Just in my personal opinion. You have a shower curtain up, and then you don't have a shower curtain anymore. That is weird. Okay? Hold on one second. Let me look something up. Hold on. And I got that poll. Okay? So go get your poll. Go put in your vote. Go get your poll. Hold on. I'm looking something up here. I'm looking that up. I don't see it, but okay. But again, and see, that's the thing, Kelsey, right? I think that's the case, right? He went through, he did what he did. He went back home. He got all his stuff. He took a shower. Probably there was red all over the place, right? He's cleaning up as much as he can. He knows a lot of stuff is going to go down through the drain, but then there's obviously going to be remnants on the shower curtain, and that's the only thing that isn't permanent, right? That isn't fixed in that shower. So he can go take it down, move it, blah blah blah, and then he can blame anything. He can use the excuse like, "Oh, I have OCD. That's the reason why, I took down the shower curtain. I do it all the time." I mean, he can still put that out there, right? But like I said, the fact that there's that he bought a K-bar knife and then that K-bar knife is gone and nowhere to be found is also huge evidence, okay, or huge information to say the least. Lisa, thank you so much for the super chat. I really do appreciate it. Maybe the pick was him thinking ahead of see no defense marks on me. I mean, that could be it too. That could very well be it too. Maybe it's a combination of both. Maybe it's a combination of both. Maybe he did take that photo to be like, whoa, unscathed, look at me, yo, looking fresh and clean. And then also like, hey, you see no defensive wounds on my body, you see nothing. And then, of course, on top of it, I did it. Trophy. Right? It's possible. But anything is possible. Like I said, like I've said in the beginning, hey, he's going to have his time in court. Obviously, we're going to hear and see more information. Or we're going to hear and see more information as time goes on. But this, to me, is a very, very interesting situation. And again, like I said, there's a lot of people out here that believe he has done no wrong, and that he's being framed. I just don't see it right now. I just don't see it. But hold on. There's a few more things. Hold on, guys. Let's see. We got some paperwork, so we're going to look at some of this as well. What is this one? Hold on one second, guys. Sorry. Okay. Let me grab. Nope, not that. We got a few pages we're going to look at here real quick. because they have been filing like crazy over the past 4 days. So it has been very interesting, to say the least. So let's take a look at this. Okay. So this is the state's reply to defendants' reply to state's opposition to motion in Lamine. All right. Exclude IGG evidence. Okay. So it comes now, the state of Idaho, by and through Latah County prosecuting attorney, and submits the following reply, to the March 17th, 2025 defendant's reply to state's opposition to motion in Lamine. Okay, exclude IGG evidence. The state will be meeting with its prosecution and investigation team to identify who will testify about the receipt of a quote unquote tip on or about December 19th and the subsequent actions taken by investigators and the state, and advise court and counsel. It is unclear what the defendant means in this last sentence of his reply, quote unquote, from the filing they had before. Since this testimony will be sanitized for presentation to the jury to avoid the IGG process, it must also not falsely suggest that there was any other evidence or tip that led to the state to Bryan Kohberger. There is substantial evidence, in parentheses, gathered both prior to the tip and subsequently, leading to Mr. Kohberger being the person responsible for the November 13th homicides and burglary. The state will certainly not falsely produce or refer to this other evidence, but will rely on all of the evidence at trial to establish the defendant's guilt. So again, what's interesting about this is like, all right, they're saying like, hey, they received a tip. And the thing I want to know, more importantly, and I'm sure the defense wants to know as well, who the tip? Who gave the tip? Because again, and I think this is also going for all the pro Kohbergers out here, okay? The pro burgers out here that think that, okay, this was all planted, that if they were able to identify and put out the person who gave the tip, this would be massive, because a lot of people are looking at this information, which is understandable. Like I said, we could sit on the fence. We could be on one side or the other side. Okay. But the pro burgers can look at that and go, oh, the tip means he was framed. The tip means there's foul play on behalf of Bryan Kohberger. Well, then who gave the tip? Right? Who gave the tip? Think about it. Now, there's been, like, I just saw Sadie just say this too. There's been a lot of speculation that it was his own sister. Yeah. There's also speculation that it was his own father too. They have not really confirmed nor denied it. Again, the state will be meeting with its prosecution and investigation team to identify who will testify about the receipt of a quote unquote tip on or about December 19th, 2022. Now, there was reports that the sister made the allegations. Remember that? We talked about this a while back, that there was speculation that maybe the sister ratted her own brother out because of his strange activity while at home. We talked about this a long time ago, and it's in my my playlist, okay? The Idaho 4 playlist. Check it out, okay? This video is even added into that playlist too. Check it out. We did talk about this, okay? That there was speculation that maybe it was the sister that made the tip. So the person who made the tip could very well be his own sister. Now, hear me out. Hear me out. Hence the reason why there's a possibility of, whoops. What? This is what I was trying to put up. Hence the reason why there could also be a possibility that family members may be going and testifying against him solely because they're the ones who gave the tip. Now, here's the thing. Here's another thing before everyone gets mad, or at least the pro-burgers get all upset and mad up here. Hear me out for a second. That does not mean that there's any smoking gun evidence that we know of. This could very well be the family member having some sort of speculation, some sort of theory. Maybe BK, maybe Coco was acting weird when he got home, acting highly suspicious, more suspicious than he's ever acted before. Okay, that sounded like a Trumpism, more than ever before. You know what I mean? How he does it, okay. Common sense. I can't do Trump, but you know what I mean. Okay. You know what I mean. You know what I mean. So again, there could very well be a sister, a dad, a mama, whoever made the tip could be going in and testifying on their behalf because they're the ones who dropped the damn tip. And people mad at me. And I'm just giving you guys the information. That was a terrible, I know it was terrible. That was terrible. That was a terrible Trump impersonation. Terrible. But thank you. I appreciate that, little Patty. Thank you. I wasn't warmed up. Sometimes I hear him and I'll have them locked. And then there's other times it just sounds terrible, like a raspy Bullwinkle or something. It's not good. Okay. He doesn't sound like Bullwinkle. Okay. But you know what I mean? So think about this for a second. Let's go back. Let's just go back. And this is just my theory. So before everybody gets mad, tranquilo. Okay? Tranquilo. I love you. Now here, this is just a piece of it. The tip. We just talking about the tip. Okay? So here it is. The state will be meeting. You see it right here, right? Well, hold on. Let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger. That's what he said. Let me see if I can make it a little bit bigger. Okay, there it is. The state will be meeting with its prosecution and investigation team to identify who will testify about the receipt of a tip. Now, here's the thing. They can literally be bringing in the investigation team to be a part of the person who, for the receipt of the tip. Okay, maybe they're trying to keep that all under wraps. But then at the same time, they could also bring somebody in the family that was the one to drop the tip. Think about that too. Again, a massive tragedy happened on that University of Idaho off campus, a little bit off campus, technically off campus, but it was like feet away from the campus. So again, I feel like it was on campus, but regardless, 4 students die. Then you got Bryan Kohberger going and coming back home. What kind of conversations are they having with their son, with their brother, before he comes back home? Remember, this happened on November 13th. There's a whole month that he didn't head back home, or so, that he did not head back home. Dad had to fly out to him, jump in the car, and then drive out back over to Pennsylvania. They were doing a road trip together, right? There wasn't anything weird he was doing on the road. He wasn't acting a little weird from the moment he saw his pops to the moment that he pulled up to his family's home. Like I said, there's so many other things that you have to put in consideration. Again, this I could be reading into this, and that could very well be it too. But think about it. Meeting with its prosecution and investigation team to identify who will testify about the receipt of the tip. Now, yes, that could be the lead investigator team that could be stepping forward and speaking about this tip. But at the same time, it could also be somebody in the family who actually dropped the tip. If it is the family members, because there's been a lot of speculation about family members calling him out, ratting him out. And if that is the case, that could very well be one of the reasons why they're saying, hey, we do not want them to be sitting there as we don't want them sitting there as family members, just there in support of Bryan Kohberger. We might need to call them up because they know exactly where they got the tip. But again, that is just a theory, right? So again, very interesting information for them to have out here. They can literally have the head of the investigation for sure. They definitely can. Okay. Or something else. They can literally bring a family member in there specifically because of what was being put out here, what the tip was. Now, here's another piece of information. There's more, guys, and this is some crazy stuff. So we're gonna jump into this piece as well. Please, again, well, actually, let me get the super chat really quick. Sweet Tea and Bumblebees, thank you so much for the super chat. I appreciate it. The shower curtain retain. I think it. Oh, okay. The shower curtain. The shower curtain could have been used to cover his seat while in the car. That's or in the white car. That's a possibility. Great way to keep the fluids from transferring. That's possible too. Or as soon as he ran over to his car, he stripped down to either he stripped down into other clothes, stripped down into his underwear, jumped in the car and drove off. Like stripped down into his clothes or stripped down out of his clothes, took the K-bar, took the knife, threw it in the bag, threw all the clothes that he had that he was wearing in the scene, at the crime scene, threw that in a bag, wrapped it up, threw in the back of his car or in the trunk, jumped in the ride, maybe still in his skivvies, don't know, and then skirted off. That's possible. Then drove off to wherever he needed to drive off, put on the other clothes, and then just got rid of the weapon and the other clothes. Burned them maybe, or just dug a hole somewhere in the woods and buried it. That's possible too, right? But thank you so much for the super chat. I appreciate that. That's not a bad theory. It's not. Rob Slack, thank you so much for being a member for over 2 years. Diggity damn. Thank you. Do you think that the lawyers for Coco or for KB for Coco are trying to see what sticks until if nothing happens, they can change plea to avoid DP. Now, here's the thing. If they do try to go with some sort of plea, they may be, Rob, you may be right. They may be looking at Coco and trying to see what is going on. They might be like, let's see what they got. Let's see what more information they got. All right, before we go for a plea. But Coco does not give me the vibe so far like the type who's going to sit there and say, yeah, let's just do a plea deal. I just don't see him doing that. I don't. He gives me the vibe of somebody who is going to do everything he can to try to get out of this thing unscathed. That's what I think. That's just the vibe I'm getting about this guy. I could be wrong again. But that is something, though. Now, here's something else that's really something. It has to do with when he turned his phone back on. There's some more information about him turning his phone off and turning his phone back on. This is very interesting. Now, again, like I said, prosecution's coming out here with the heat, okay? They've been coming out here with the dumb heat. Again, if he's the wrong guy, oh, my dear God, they got so much information that is just not looking very good. So let's take a look at this one. This piece of paperwork here. All right. It's not super long, a few pages long, but we have got to take a look at this. So the defendant's objection / response to the state's motion offers nothing new or substantively different. In fact, defendant appears to now acknowledge that he does not have any witnesses, potentially other than himself, to establish where the defendant was, quote unquote, at the time of the alleged offense, the tragedy. Okay. Now, partial corroboration does not cover the time alleged in the state's changing documents. And this is, of course, a quote from what the defense has filed, okay? Or any affidavit in support of searching and seizing Coco's person or property. Now, Let's move on. At best, the witness mentioned by the defendant, Cy Ray, can only testify generally to his opinion about where the defendant was during the early morning of November 13th, 2022. Based on the evidence, we know for a fact that cellular analysis cannot show where the defendant was at the time of the alleged offense, as required by the applicable statute and court rule, because the defendant's cell phone was turned off during that time. How convenient, right? Based on the above and the extensive history of repeated attempts to get the defendant, to comply with the disclosure requirements of Idaho Code 19-519, blah, 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 the court should enter an order prohibiting the defendant from presenting any evidence other than from the defendant himself, whether by direct or cross-examination, in support of any claimed alibi regarding the specific places or places at which the defendant claims to have been at the time of the alleged offense, as required by the referenced statute and court rule, as directed by the humble judge, okay, February 23rd, order setting deadlines and hearing, and as discussed in the state's April 26, 2024 response to notice of defendant's supplemental response of state's alibi. Now, what's interesting about this, okay, is that one, they're saying Cy Ray, okay, can only do so much. There's only so much he can say, right? This Cy Ray, okay, saying that he can only testify generally to his opinion about where he was, where Kohberger was on the morning of. But there's not much he can say else. The only person that could corroborate Brian Kohberger's story and his timeline is Brian Kohberger. So for the fact that they're sitting here trying to go, well, Cy Ray was, can testify. Well, this person can't really testify at all. If Kohberger was by himself, then Kohberger was by himself. There's no way around it, right? Hold on, there's more. Hold on. Okay. Let's see. Hold on. Okay, hold on. Sorry, guys. Where the heck is it? So again, like I said before, the fact that they're sitting there saying, hey, we do have somebody who can be there for what's being said here. Like, oh yeah, he was there. He saw him during these hours and during this time. If there's only a certain amount of time that he saw him and then he disappeared or he went away, then there's nothing they can use to say anything. There's nothing they can use. There's nothing he can use for that, right? The only thing he can do is just rely on the information he says about rolling solo dolo, looking at the moon and the stars and the trees in the middle of the night. Literally, that's his alibi. Literally, that's his alibi, guys. So again, I look at that and I'm like, okay. There's only so much, like I said, that you can do off of, I was by myself, but I was looking at the moon and the stars. That's exactly what I was doing at that time. Again, that doesn't make any sense. Okay. It's that's some trash in my personal opinion. Hold on, guys. I got a few things I want to bring up. All right. Let's see here. And yeah, there's a bunch of stuff going on in the crib. So if you hear some pounding, we're doing some construction stuff. Okay, just so you guys know. So moving on. One second, guys. Let's play this first.
Now is Kaylee's
Let's see this.
father, Steve Gonzalez. Steve, thank you so much for joining Top Story. And I also want to say I'm so sorry that you have to join us and that we have to speak like this. I know you were doing this to speak for your daughter, but I am so sorry this is a situation you find yourself in at all. I want to start with just asking you about that selfie that everyone has now seen. What went through your head? What did it feel like when you saw that selfie of Brian Kohberger allegedly taken hours after your daughter and her housemates were murdered?
It was a trophy. He made himself a trophy. He felt like at that point he had just returned from the crime scene. There was no one there. And he believed, very confident, that's what the thumbs up. He's going to look back at that, remember what he got away with. And, it's a challenge to Idaho to let everybody know that, he thought he could kill people in our state, get away with it. He was far smarter than everyone else around him. And, he studied it. He's trying to be a PhD in it. So I think it was a challenge to Idaho. And I think Idaho will definitely step up. And he's going to regret that photo.
Steve, I want to also ask you about one of the requests the defense is making to the judge, asking that they do not allow spectators to wear T-shirts with pictures of the victims on them or anything like words in the memory of. How does that make you feel?
It's petty. I don't worry about it, though. My daughter's, justice and getting this conviction is much more important than wearing a shirt. I've never worn a shirt in court. They'll never be able to ever show that I ever did. So, when you got somebody facing, death row, you probably should focus more on, the case and the evidence rather than who's going to be in there witnessing it.
The defense has also claimed that they're going to present alternate perpetrators. Do you believe there is anyone else involved in the murder of your daughter and her housemates?
No, not at all. There's surveillance all around there. You're going to clearly see who was coming into the place and exactly when they were leaving and what that vehicle looked like when it took that corner. This case is solid.
Again, let me just say this too. For everybody who's, this is the thing. There's so much information. There's footage. There's, finding a car that greatly matches the car that Brian Kohberger was driving, right? There's so much, like I said, there's so much, okay? The fact that it didn't have a front license plate. And then that same car later had a license plate in the front because he changed his license plates. But the old license plates were Pennsylvania license plates. And because of that, in Pennsylvania, you don't have to have a front license plate on your front bumper. But then he went and got a new license plates. And in the state of Washington, you have to have a front and back license plate. Again, the car, what he did, etc. This isn't weird to anybody. The fact that everybody and their mama was looking for a white Elantra. I mean, remember the wild goose chases that we were all on, right? There were so many accounts of, there's a burnt up white Elantra in Oregon. Remember that BS back in the day, right? There's people just going and just pointing out. It was like trying to find Brian Laundrie, for crying out loud. Every single white 4-door car was a doggone suspect. Okay. So again, for the fact that they found the car, followed this car, went all the way out to Pennsylvania and continued to watch this man act super strange, awkward as hell. You don't think that the family was sitting there hearing about this mass tragedy? Because the whole world was stuck, shocked on what happened, right? Everybody was sitting there losing their minds revolving around this situation. And what happened? You really think that they just sat there and just Oh no, they didn't say anything? Didn't see that the car that he was driving is exactly the car that they were looking for? You didn't think his family members or anybody else that may be close to the family that knew he drove this car didn't think for 1 second, there's something weird about this? Like I said, the person who gave the tip, I truly, truly believe was a family member. I think that goes without saying, guys. But that's just me. So again, the fact that they are going to bring somebody in, now either all of his family or just his family, the fact that he's going in, or that they're sitting there going, we will be bringing somebody in. Let me just repeat that again. We may be bringing somebody in from his family to testify. Who do you think that person is going to be? And that's the other thing too, Christy. That is something that we're going to have to wait until we see the inside of the courtroom. That information is not going to drop until the inside of the courtroom, I'm sure. Unless they just keep all that hush and they only talk to the lead investigators for this whole thing. But I'm telling you right now, I truly believe family member of some sort, his sister, his dad, his own mama, whoever may be, saw all the clues, saw all the pieces of the puzzle, and said, this is very odd. He pulls up in his white Elantra. He's maybe acting a little bit stranger than he usually acts at home and all that stuff. You don't think for 1 second the family is sitting there going, well, wait a second, that's a white Elantra. There was an Idaho 4 murder that just happened. All those kids are gone. Here's the information that we have so far. He goes to school 15 seconds away from the freaking university as well. He's acting really weird around here, and maybe he doesn't usually wear gloves when he's home, but he's walking around wearing gloves. It's weird. I truly believe that the tip was family. They even said that. But hold on. I'm gonna look for that. Hold on 1 second. About the tip. Hold on.
Solid, and we look forward to it. They're just trying to delay it, but it's time to pay the piper. We're all going to see what the state has, and I'm very confident in what they have.
How is your family holding up and handling all of this? I mean, last week we heard the 911 call partially released. We've seen this selfie now. What is it like for you and your family to keep having these items, these bits of information come out?
It is hard. It's very hard. You kind of just prepare your family, tell them to stay away from the TV, stay away from, parts of the internet. So, but it's nice to get this information out. It's good to see the facts. I mean, it's weird to wait 2.5 years to know like some of the final things that, your child has been through. We're still waiting on even like laptops and things that, so we can see, her playlist and things that she was working on. It's tough. It's tough to go through this, but I just think of all the officers and, the FBI agents and all the hard work that they put into this. So, I can wait and, we can get this out. We can figure it out.
As we move closer to seeing Bryan Kohberger actually face a jury and answer to these charges, what for you and your family is the thing you hope people focus on the most when that coverage really gets in full swing? What is it you hope people don't forget about what y'all have experienced or about your daughter?
I think if people can concentrate on how much victims they were, how these people were just going through their everyday life, trying to be educated, try to be like the best type of human being that you could possibly be. And even having all the way from like their meals that they shared together till their Uber ride, they weren't drinking and driving, they weren't doing anything bad, and come home and to go to your bed and to have some stranger he's not even a part of our state. He just didn't even belong here, and to have that person sneak into your home and kill you in your bed. If there wasn't ever a moment for people to rally together and say, it's time to take this to the full closure and have a message that's out there so we can kind of point to say, we put our foot down right here. And, when we have these school shooters and people that do these mass murders, maybe we have to start, putting our foot down and taking it to the darkest part, all the way till we finalize these people. And then maybe we can stop having these so often.
Have you been able to speak to any of the other families, Ethan's family, Zaina's or Maddie's?
Yeah, I've spoken to all the families, some more than others, but yeah, I mean, Karen will call. She'll call us in the middle of the night, So we know if you're struggling, you're having a hard day, that you picked up that phone and you spend some time talking to somebody. Mm-hmm. And I love talking about Maddie all the time, so it's it's pretty easy for us to do.
Are you and the other families confident right now that prosecutors have what they need to get a conviction here?
Yeah. They broke that down early on, and they basically outlined a couple different scenarios. And one of those was, hopefully this person comes out and says that he was framed. Was ideal, because that basically just means there's so much evidence that he just can't combat it. We didn't think we'd get as lucky as no alibi. We thought he'd think it out, and he is a smart guy. I figured he'd have some better way to explain what he was doing that night. I mean, I could think of a lot of better ways he could have done it. Really tricky stuff, but he didn't. And luckily, the case is going to be, it's going to be handled, and we'll get the eventual. We'll never get our kids back. I take that over any of this, but this is the best that we can make of the situation that we're in.
It's obviously very tragic. Everything that's going on here. But let me pull this up again. Of course, he's got his opinions, of course, rightfully so, as I feel like any parent would have. But I think this is the video itself talking about this tip.
Brian Kohberger's team has tried and failed.
Of course, they are also defense is saying that this whole thing was planted. The DNA, all that stuff is planted at that time. Let's take a listen.
Every single time to throw out the process that linked him to the DNA that was on the knife sheath left behind at the scene. But now we're hearing that his team apparently plans to just admit it at trial, that indeed it is Brian's DNA on that knife sheath. But, and it's a big one, that somebody else planted the knife sheath there.
It's been a year, more than a year, that there's been so many court hearings and fights back and forth about the investigative genetic genealogy, the defense trying to poke holes in it, saying that it's unfair, saying that it's not scientifically tested, that it's a new technology that they used. I thought it was going to be a big part of their defense at trial. Apparently not.
But let's, for argument's sake, take this argument. Okay, it was his DNA on the knife sheath, and somebody decided to plant it. Okay, so now you're wondering, how did that happen? How did the DNA get on the knife sheath? Who would want to frame him? And by the way, if this is a plot to really frame Brian Kohberger here, then this is somebody who would also have to make sure that his cell phone turned off at the key times during these murders, that the cell phone pings that were on would track the same movements of his car headed towards and away from the direction of that area, that the car would also have to be in that area at least 4 times that night. And also the assailant would have to dress up and look like somebody like Brian Kohberger, who matched the description from the eyewitness about the bushy eyebrows. So
all he would have to have is bushy eyebrows. Let's be real. But yeah.
All of these things together would have to be someone framing Brian Kohberger.
Yeah. I mean, this isn't the clip I was looking for, but that is a very strong point, though. Like, they would have to do so much choreography to make sure that they would, that they would be able to pin this on Brian Kohberger. So again, it just doesn't make any sense. But let me just pull this up. I think this is the video in its entirety, but I want us to take a listen to some of this here really quick. Again, guys, for all the pro burgers out there, I'm just telling you right now, this would be extremely impossible for this whole thing to be this choreographed. Oh, we know he's going to turn off his phone because he needs to go see the moon and the stars, right? At this particular time. We know he looks like this. We know, like I said, all of these things would not make any sense. Like all of these things would have to be properly choreographed, properly placed to be successful. But that's not the case here. Like what Jesse Weber is saying here is absolutely 110% correct. It just doesn't make any earthly sense, and it would just be literally impossible to know how this person moves only unless you got somebody who is watching his every move every single night, knowing his pattern and going, okay, he turned off his phone, perfect timing to go and cause a tragedy. Okay. Like it just doesn't make sense. Like I said.
Surprising, Ashley, you have to think to yourself, if you were on that jury and they just said in court, oh, it's a tip that led us to Brian Kohberger and led us to do the cheek swab and then connect the DNA from him to the knife sheath. It was just a tip. You'd have to imagine they would be sitting there wondering, well, what tip was it? How did you get to that point? We've now learned they're not going to find out. That's not going to come in during trial. The judge just ruled on that today. It's been.
So again, tip. Bang. There was a tip. And we already know that it's in the paperwork. There was a tip, but they're not telling anybody who the tip was. So maybe my theory is wrong. Maybe they won't be bringing up a family member in that regard. If they're sitting there going like, it's done. What's done is done. This person is asked for to be protected. But you know for a fact, in my personal opinion, this has to have been something about family. Because there's no way somebody would just make a tip like this and then do all this stuff, right? I really do think it was his sister. But I mean, like I said, it's just a theory.
Pretty surprising.
I'm playing it again. Sorry, guys. So you guys can hear that again.
Yeah, it is pretty surprising, Ashley. You have to think to yourself, if you were on that jury and they just said in court, oh, it's a tip that led us to Brian Kohberger and led us to do the cheek swab and then connect the DNA from him to the knife sheath. It was just a tip. You'd have to imagine they would be sitting there wondering, well, what tip was it? How did you get to that point? We've now learned they're not going to find out. That's not going to come in during trial. The judge just ruled on that today. It's been a year, more than a year, that there's been so many court hearings and fights back and forth about the investigative genetic genealogy, the defense trying to poke holes in it, saying that it's unfair, saying that it's not scientifically tested, that it's a new technology that they used. I thought it was going to be a big part of their defense at trial. Apparently not. They've said they don't want to bring it in. The prosecution has said they don't want to bring it in. The judge has agreed, and it's apparently not coming in.
Crazy.
Jesse, I feel like those are several months I will never get back. The pitched battle between the defense and the prosecution under seal, I might add, which drives me even crazier because to me that is secret justice, not American justice. But, when it comes right down to it, Jesse Weber, a swath, of his cheek matches the DNA on the knife sheath. Do we need to even know anything more than that? The DNA on here matches the DNA in that cheek. Does the jury need to know anything more than that?
Probably not, because let me break it down for this. So it is a 5.37 octillion times more likely that is Brian Kohberger's DNA than anybody else. Not a shocker. They're not trying to challenge it. But let's, for argument's sake, take this argument. Okay, it was his DNA on the knife sheath and somebody decided to plant it. Okay, so now you're wondering, how did that happen? How did the DNA get on the knife sheath? Who would want to frame him? And by the way, if this is a plot to really frame Brian Kohberger here, then this is somebody who would also have to make sure that his cell phone turned off at the key times during these murders, that the cell phone pings that were on would track the same movements of his car headed towards and away from the direction of that area, that the car would also have to be in that area at least 4 times that night. And also the assailant would have to dress up and look like somebody like Brian Kohberger, who matched the description from the eyewitness about the bushy eyebrows. So all of these things together would have to be someone framing Brian Kohberger.
Again, I know I just played this a second ago, but I wanted you guys to hear the full conversation, not the 1 minute clip, all mashed up and all that. But think about that. They would have to literally put together and have this so beautifully and perfectly choreographed to mimic everything that he was doing, that this would be very tough. At the end of the day, this is tough. That would be it's impossible, guys. Not even almost. It's impossible. So again, yes, JK, Coco is done. It's a wrap, y'all. He is in some serious trouble. Period, point blank. He is in some serious trouble. And the only way he's going to be able to get out of this situation is if his defense starts to bulk up on their defense. Right now, they're just trying to dismiss a bunch of stuff. There's all these motions to dismiss this, dismiss that, X, Y, and Z, but they have not done anything yet to actually shut this mother lover down, to shut the prosecution down. They have yet to be like, here's the smoking gun evidence. All they've said is, yeah, that is his DNA, but it ain't his, but it was planted. Like I said, why would he be the one picked out of everybody else? Why? Now, I already know, like, people have said, oh, maybe it's the cartel. There was a cartel hit because of the house was a trap house. But I have yet to hear anything about it being an actual trap house. All right. Yes, it was a party home. But at the same time, I just don't see cartel in snowy Idaho coming in and doing this terrible stuff to these kids. Right. So again, bushy eyebrows, etc. It just, like I said, it just doesn't make any sense. Also, I will say this too. Even with the phone calls that we saw, the phone calls, text messages, their phone activity, not once were they calling anybody that was out of the norm, if that makes any sense. It's not like they were hitting anybody up. I mean, there were some people on social media that they're like, I was like, who are they responding to, or who are they texting? Dylan and Bethany. Sure, those are some questionable things. But for the most part, they were contacting people that they knew, family members, etc. And then they called 911. Yes, I know. All that stuff seems sketchy. All that stuff is sketchy. I agree. But at the same time, that still does not take away the fact that this man walked in and allegedly did all of this on his own. There's still a possibility that he really did do this whole thing by himself. The defense has yet to show anything otherwise. I'm waiting to see what's going on with that, because I'd love to see them rebuttal instead of trying to dismiss everything. They're trying to dismiss the genealogy evidence. They're trying to dismiss all these things that, of course, we're seeing quickly that the judge is denying or saying hell no to, and all that stuff. And these other things are responses to by the prosecution, basically saying like, hey, the defense is trying to get rid of certain things that are necessary for this trial. Okay. Again, when you see all this, to me, it's still making Brian Kohberger look really, really bad. Nothing has changed so far for me when it comes to the evidence that they have laid out in front of all of us. Like I said, everybody's entitled to their own opinion. I mean, you have your own opinion. That's totally fine. But there's something about this that tells me that this man is cooked. And defense, by the way, Ann Taylor's a fantastic lawyer. From what I've heard, fantastic lawyer. But so far, we haven't heard anything as far as what they presented. None of it has been smoking gun evidence to prove him innocent so far. So again, if somebody was to plan this whole thing out, exactly what Jesse Weber said, real talk, how would we know that he was framed without a shadow of a doubt? There's too many things lined up right now that has been found by prosecution that shows that it would be impossible for someone to know exactly his whereabouts and when he's going to turn off his phone and when he's going to turn his phone back on and all that stuff, for them to actually exact a unaliving and then frame it all on Bryan Kohberger. It just doesn't make sense, guys. It doesn't. Let me end this poll here really quick. 622 votes. Let me see here. Let's see. Out of 622 votes, 80% of y'all say yes, it could it could crush him. I said, do you think Bryan Kohberger's family testifying will hurt or help him in this case? And 80% of y'all said nah, it could crush him. And I think he's done. I think he's done. But like I said, it's only the end of March. We're about to get into May or into April. There is plenty of time, still enough time for the defense to come in with some shocking bombshell information. So we leave some things on the table. But right now, what the prosecution has done is present a very, very strong argument, in my personal opinion. I think this is an open and shut case, honestly, but anything is possible here. I believe that they got their guy. And I think whoever gave them the tip, as we heard just a second ago,
if you were on that jury and they just to Bryan Kohberger and led us to do the cheek swab and then connect the DNA from him to the knife sheath, it was just a tip. You'd have to imagine they would.
You got a tip from somebody. Who's the tip? Had to have been somebody close to Kohberger. Definitely had to be someone close to Kohberger, in my personal opinion. Does this person have it out for Coco or no? I don't know. But all the things that they were looking for, he's matching those things with flying. He's passing those descriptions with flying colors. And that is not good. Anyway, guys, that is the show. I appreciate all y'all for being here. It really means a lot. You know, even though we can disagree, you know what I mean? We always have room to disagree. Okay. I appreciate you guys just hearing it out. Family testifying against him has the potential to be a very bad thing. Okay. And we're going to see how that goes. Real talk. But we have got to get going. Do me a favor before we get out of here. Hit that like button down below, please, and thank you. Hit that reaction button if you can. That'd be greatly appreciated. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, please. All right? Subscribe. Go over to my secondary channel. Subscribe over there as well. It's called The Pascal Show Clips. All right? Hit that join button down below. Become a member. Check out my Patreon. Check out my locals. And, of course, don't forget, check out PascalMerch.com. Okay, guys, it is time to get going. Much love to you guys. We'll be talking very, very soon. Be good to yourselves. Be good to one another. This is The Pascal Show. Bye.